Good morning. Welcome to another Backyard Professor videos. I'm up here at Crest Creek again. I love this area. It's a really beautiful nature hike, and it's a well-developed trail and well-groomed and private. When I get up here early in the morning before all the squawking kids show up, they have a lot of fun out here. I'm going to continue my discussion of the theme of God in the Bible and the nature and kind of being that God is. And today I'm going to explore the Greek elements of several words that describe God, even from Jesus' own description. And I think it's very fascinating to study the scriptures in their languages. And I've brought my handy satchel because I have many lexicons and dictionaries that I want to use to show the various words in the Greek and how they're used and how their meaning helps us comprehend the type of being that God is. Now, one of the main books that I want to use is Edward Watson's Mormonism, the Faith of the 21st Century. It's by Liahona Publications for 1998. He wrote this initially as a book for the church education system. He was hoping they would accept it, and they didn't, which is too bad for them. It's their loss. Watson has really done a magnificent work on this. He explores a lot of the Greek. He explores a lot of the analysis of the importance of using the lexicons and the dictionaries. And of course, unfortunately, our church education system doesn't really emphasize the biblical languages. It should, but you know, they want to keep serving us mashed potatoes and gravy. And after 397,414 meals of nothing but mashed potatoes, you know, you get sickly. What I want to do today is share some of the meat. I'm going to give you some steak so that you can use some of your molars, so to speak, and chew on some of the wonderful doctrines of God from the biblical Greek. And I think if the analysis proves correct, he picks 8, 9, 10, 11 basic words that are used to describe God, and in no case does the biblical Greek discuss deity as an immaterial or incorporeal being. That thought couldn't have even been in the heads of, say, James or Paul or Mary Magdalene or Jesus himself, because that is a later Neoplatonic Greek doctrine. Now, some of the Neoplatonic Greek uses the same words as the biblical Greek, but they adapted new interpretations and meanings and nuances of the words, and that was a few centuries after Jesus' day. I'm going to go strictly by the biblical Greek, and we're going to find that God is described in really wonderful detail as a completely corporeal being. It's a fascinating situation to discover. His section on his Appendix 1, starting on page 205, is where he explores the various Greek words and their nuances. He says, all of the words identified in this group are related to one another, and they are. The lexicons and dictionaries confirm that. I have several of the lexicons and dictionaries that I've brought with me that Watson is quoting so that I can show you the actual lexical semantic meaning of the words. They have slightly different emphasis than each other, and so on and so forth, of course. The thing he's looking at, quoting these words in the pertinent passages of Scripture, is to determine the consistency of interpretation. And this is where it's really powerful, because one word by itself isn't so convincing. But when you get word after word after word after word after word that explores what the type of being God is from the biblical Greek, it gets very interesting. These are synonyms. That is, the words that have direct bearing on the correct interpretation of the passages. The first word that he uses is morph. It's the word for form. and it means form or a visible and outward appearance, a shape that is discernible with the physical human eyes. It means nature, character. The related word is morphosis, of course, then this means an outward semblance or appearance as opposed to some kind of an inward vitality. And morpho, which means formed. Something is formed, and it's always talking about a corporeal forming when that word is used. In the Greek world, morphotheu was used for the external, usually the human form for God. The word morph can be found in Philippians 2, verses 6 and 7. Who being in the form, the morph, of God, thought it not robbery to be equal with God, but made himself of no reputation, and took upon him the form, that is morph again, it's used twice in this verse. He took on the form of a servant, and was made in the likeness of men. So despite having the same nature of God, he didn't think his equality with God to be forcefully clung to, but he emptied himself. And what he did is he took upon himself a servant form, the nature of a servant, and he became like mortal man. Morph is used in this passage, Watson says, to mean much more than an outward physical resemblance, but it is actually discussing the nature, the being, the type and makeup of the God. Now, Spick, in his Theological Lexicon of the New Testament in the 2nd volume, says about this word morph, the current in classical and Hellenistic Greek, with a wide range of meanings. It means statue, form, condition, feature, external appearance, reproduction. Morph is used relatively little in the Bible. When in the Old Testament Gideon asks Zebah and Zalmunna, he says, "What were the men like that you killed at Tabor?" They said, "They were like you." Each of them having the features, and the Hebrew here is toar, they had the features of sons of kings. Oh, the sun's just coming over the horizon, getting right in my eyes. The hos eidos morphes huion basilion. They have the form of the sons of kings. That's Judges 8:18. Now, Eliphaz did not recognize the features, and the Hebrew word here for features, which is the Greek morph, is temuna. And this is a representation of a person or a thing, of the person before him. The uk ein morphe pro ophthalmonmu. That's Job 4:6. He says, compare Wisdom 18:1. In many sacred and secular texts, the word refers to good looks, an attractive appearance, or charming features. It always has to do with the physical person, this Greek word for morph. Beginning with Isaiah 44:13, Spick says, where the sculpture of idols gives them a human form, the hos morphon andros is the Greek. This meaning of distinctive or characteristic form or structure, according to Dionysius of Halicarnassus and Heraclitus, is applied especially to a person. Notably in Philo also. Here's how Philo puts it. This is very interesting how Philo uses it. The body was created when the artist took a lump of clay and shaped it into a human form. That's Philo on the creation and the migration of Abraham. Now, when the woman in turn had been fashioned, the man saw a sister appearance, and here is the word eidos, and a kindred form, and he rejoiced. The kindred form is the syngene morphon. But morph is used especially for a form represented in an image or a sculpture. Gaius filled the synagogues with images, ikonon, and statues in his own form, the tes ideus morphus, so that they knew that it was a statue representing him. It comes to mean the look or the physique of a person, his countenance or portrait. That's on page 521. On page 523, Spick says, it is characteristic of morph to be modified, to appear to be changed, to take on new features, like the risen Lord appearing to the disciples at Emmaus, ein heteromorphe. He had a new mode of being, and a new appearance. This is the theme of the morph.